Welcome back, everybody, to Just Keep Parenting. Thank you for joining us for another week of learning about how we can improve our parenting. We can improve our relationships with children, even if we're not parents, right? As grandparents, as aunts, as caregivers. And so, thank you for joining us today. We've been talking about Mr. Rogers' hints about parenting, right? And about how we can help children in their lives. We've talked about what do we do when we move, how do we prepare our children for that, how do we help them go to the dentist and the doctor. And today we're going to talk about death. I've had one of my university students lose her little nephew this week, and I lost my nephew a year ago, and he was 50, and this little guy was a lot younger than that. And I just think that as we deal with death, right, that sometimes that's hard on us and on children. And so I love this little vignette that Mr. Rogers talks about at the very beginning. In the first few days after my father died, I cried a lot. That really upset my daughter. She would beg me, "Smile, Mommy, smile." So I decided to try and hide my sadness. But my daughter seemed to know that I was really sad and on the verge of tears. I told her that even though she couldn't make my sadness go away, she could do something really important by comforting me with her hugs. I think her hugs helped her as much as they helped me. So, recognizing, right, that most young children know something about death, right? They've seen a dead cricket or a dead something on a dead bird maybe, right? And so they have this notion of death, but it's very limited. It's very simplistic, and they probably have quite a few misunderstandings about death as they grow, right? So one of the things that we need to do is we need to be loving to their questions, be willing to answer their questions, and to help them understand a little bit more about death. Recognizing that children are curious, right? They love to figure things out. They love to find out why things work the way that they do. And so they know best what they can do with their senses, right? What they can feel, what they can touch, what they can see. And he goes on to say they can't comprehend much beyond the fact that whatever is dead doesn't move. And so they're curious about death. They might want to ask questions like, if we set grandma up in the casket, what would happen, right? So helping them to understand that, especially their body functions, right? They want to know, does the dead animal or does the dead person get hungry? Does the dead animal go to the potty? Does the dead animal sleep, right? And so they don't mean to be rude or hurt anybody's feelings, right? Because they're literal. They're just seeking information. And sometimes we get maybe a little bit embarrassed, or we think people might be offended when children ask these questions. But if we really understand where children are coming from, they're just seeking that curiosity, that they're just using that curiosity gift that they've been given, right? So they may ask questions again and again, right? Testing our answers to see if we're going to give them the answers that are not correct, but if the answers are the same, okay? So the finality of death is hard on anybody, right? Hard on us as adults, let alone children. And so they have friends, right, that play dead and then they come back to life. They watch TV people. They watch comics. They die and then they come back alive. So that should be a normal question for them, right? As they play through their grief, as they play through their death, that they come back alive. So one of the children that Mr. Rogers talked about said, "Is Mommy coming back for my birthday?" Right? It takes a long time for children to comprehend the finality of death. So children may be curious to see what dead looks like, right? Some parents are concerned that seeing an open casket will traumatize their child, right? And so with special preparation, seeing a dead body doesn't have to be frightening. I remember when my mother died, the mortician brought in, most of my nephews and nieces were grown at that point, but we had a lot of great nephews and nieces. And he came in and he talked about what a casket was. And in French, if my understanding is correct, a casket means a special box, and so a treasure box. And so grandma's body was gonna be in this treasure box, right? And I just love that explanation to the children that this casket was grandma's resting place. And so being able to understand what children can comprehend about death, and then helping them and using words that can help that. Words can be confusing, right? Sometimes, I love what he says here. Children tend to take what we say literally. Someone once told a child that death was like going to sleep. That child had a great difficulty going to bed and getting to sleep because she was afraid she might not ever wake up. If children hear that someone has lost a father or a daughter, imagine what they might think. Or hearing that grandpa went on a long, long journey. A child might want to know, if he came home from his vacation last year, when will he be back? So despite our best intentions, right, our words can be frightening and confusing to young children. If heaven is in the sky, why are we burying Aunt Susie in the ground? Or if I go in the airplane, can I see my baby sister who's in heaven? Right? So as we try to explain things in a way that children will understand, sometimes we confuse them more, right? So helping them understand, helping them to answer their questions with death, right? No one knows for sure, but this is what I believe. Yeah, I wonder about that too. I don't know the answer to that, right? Sometimes we feel like we have to have all the answers. And it's okay to say to children, I don't know the answer to that, but this is what I think. This is what I believe, right? Recognizing that each child is going to react differently. I know that when my parents passed away, just as adults, we all acted differently, right? And sometimes I'm like, how come they're not grieving the same way I'm grieving? Recognizing that children will do that same thing, right? Some of them will want to sing songs. Some of them will want to read books. Some of them will want to snuggle. Some of them won't want to talk about it at that point, right? But making ourselves aware that children need time to process, and that we need to be available when they want to talk through that process. And expressing their feelings, right? Children who are 4 and 5 are often aggressive. And so if a child happens to be angry with a parent and that parent dies, then somehow that child sometimes feels like the anger caused the parent to die. And so being able to talk through those things, that we're all angry, right? We all get angry, and anger doesn't cause somebody to die, right? Helping them work through that. I love how it says, it can make a person really angry to have someone go away and not come back. Most people feel awful when someone they love dies. Just identifying that feeling and hearing that there's nothing wrong with it can be a big help to a child and can make it easier to talk more about it then or later. He talks about parents need feelings too, right? Our needs and feelings as adults are much the same as children's. And sometimes when we're all caught up in it and we think this is my sibling, this is my parent, we have to recognize that children need us, even though we feel like we're caught up in this. And including them in that journey that we're going on, right? Simple things like hugging, talking, and having quiet times together, right? The adult needs that, the child needs that as well. And then just responding to their questions, right? Will you die, mommy? Will you die, daddy? Right? Helping them with honesty and confidence. We can say something like, I hope to be alive for a long, long time. And no matter what, there will always be somebody to take care of you. So we have to help children work through their feelings, understand what's happening, and responding to their questions with honesty. Death is a mystery for most of us, right? And so when children ask questions about death, we don't have the answers. Even if you've said something that you can later regret, let your child know that you've thought of a better way to talk about it. If you can accept your humanness, children can too. I love that little ending piece. So as Mr. Rogers does, he goes through helpful hints. I'm going to quickly go through these because we've talked about most of them. But just the dead fish can't move, right? Talking about the finality of it. It can't move or swim ever again. Burying a goldfish, right, in your yard can help them process that. Share your memories of your experiences and feelings when you were a child and loved a pet or a person and had them pass away. It's frightening for children to think about the sadness right, they feel when someone they love dies, and that it's overwhelming and may never go away, and talk them through that processing of it. While it may seem that for the moment you've put your child's questions about death to rest, something's going to probably come up again. Recognize that. You may want to encourage your child to make a photo album or a book of memories that they've had with that pet or that person. It can help to spend some quiet time with your child, right? Something together that you both enjoy, taking a walk, reading a book. When somebody that's close passes away, that can be one of the most difficult tragedies in any family, right? And so being able to recognize that there may be some professional help that's needed, and that's okay. And then at the funeral, right? Being excluded from funerals sometimes is hard for children, but recognizing that they can be included. Maybe they pass out tissues, maybe they pass out refreshments, maybe they just sit by you, right? Whatever you need and whatever they need is important to recognize. Preparing them that there may be people that are laughing, crying, and chattering away, right? Because everybody deals with death differently. And then if you're worried about taking your child to the funeral home with everybody around, you can surely have arrange for a time to just have your little family there, right? You have some time before people come. And then if your child doesn't want to go to the funeral, right? Or if your own needs are such that that can't happen, you can arrange for a friend, somebody that the child knows well, to be able to take care of that child. And then the last thing that he talks about is just maybe having him on your lap or by you, so that hugs and snuggles can happen as part of that grieving process at the funeral. So there are some ideas, hoping that as we move through our grief, recognizing that sometimes it bites us in the butt when we don't anticipate it, but recognizing that that's normal, and that's normal for children as well. So keep on parenting, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.